Okay. No. You might have to mute yours and then, yeah, that's it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Lee Abtar, Multicultural Travel Lead at Women in Travel CIC and founder of 2219 Media. And I am really excited to bring together three amazing ladies, and you just saw my cat as well, from across the travel industry. I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you this time around. So Amy, as you're at the top of my screen, I'll start with you.
Hello, thank you very much, Jamie Lee. My name is Amy Skelding. I'm Senior Partner at Fin Partners Travel. We are a global travel PR agency. And I think what you'd asked us to say was what 2020 and 2021 had kind of taught us, and I think that it's taught me particularly that you can make plans, but sometimes it's better to kind of roll with an ever evolving news agenda, and that being human and collaborating with others when you don't really know the answer, it shows that you kind of, you know, showing that you care when all feels a bit bleak is really important. Being a normal person is actually really important, and as we're seeing with current news, that never to assume the worst is over, because horizon scanning is kind of key. So yes, that's a quick introduction to me.
Thank you so much. Now, Sophie, will you take away?
Hi, I'm Sophie Lam. I'm travel editor of the I newspaper and inews.co.uk. I've been with the paper for about 4 years, and we're quite a young national paper and website. So what the pandemic has taught me is basically to learn the industry from the bottom up again, to kind of get to know every moving part of it. I feel like we've all kind of had to really get to grips with all aspects of it. I used to just kind of commission nice destination features, but I've kind of had to pivot a lot more to news. As Amy says, to be a lot more reactive, not to plan too far ahead, and exactly right, collaboration has been key, and it's been a really nice, positive result of the pandemic.
Oh, that's fantastic. And last but not least is Maria.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Blackman, and I help brands connect with the media and engage with their target audience. I've been doing so for the last 15 years, working with the Antigua-and-Barbuda Ministry of Tourism and the Antigua-and-Barbuda Tourism Authority, and most recently through the opening of Maria Blackman PR, where we've been working with musicians, charities, educational organizations to really help them get their message across to their target audience. And one thing that the pandemic taught me is that you need to be constantly changing. You need to keep abreast of
I think we lost Maria there for a minute, but I'll when she joins us back, I will let her continue her introduction. Today's discussion is all about what brands are looking for in content creators and influencers. We've all seen that brands are increasingly starting to collaborate more with content creators who can lend a real authentic voice that resonates with the audience and piques their interest. She's back.
I can't believe it to me now.
It's technology for you. It is what it is. That's what you have to do. So I was just giving a brief introduction on what this panel will all talk about. So it seeks to really explore how content creators, influencers, freelance journalists, how can they work with brands? What does that look like now? What are the do's and don'ts in the industry, and some of the approaches for securing business? I guess I'll kick it off with you, Amy. How have you seen the COVID-19 pandemic? Do you think it's providing new opportunities for content creators?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with creators for years. You know, the evolution of blogging to influencers to creators has been a kind of a fun ride. And I think the pandemic's shown, shown some for being really vacuous and others for being a really integral part of a marketing funnel for a brand. So for all sorts of brands, they're now seen as a kind of effective channel to get to audiences that don't necessarily consume traditional media. Sorry, Sophie, but they don't watch telly, or they're not in any of the normal kind of perceived normal routes to market. So, and our obsession with our phones looks to continue. So I think influencers being part of that scroll really becomes kind of ever important.
Fantastic. I'm going to go straight to Sophie, as you pinpointed her just now.
I'll get told off.
I know. Sophie, I mean, the marketplace has really changed. Can you share like any advice for potential aspiring travel writers? What are the key things they should be focusing now on to help build their career in the travel industry as a travel writer?
So from my point of view, it's knowing the outlet really well. It's understanding the audience. I can't tell you how many pitches I get that have really no idea who our specific audience is, and it's just not right for us. So as time consuming as it is, it's so important to do your research first, but also just have confidence in yourself, confidence in your own strengths, and to know that you have got the skills to write that story and tailor it to the publication.
So yeah, I like that, definitely. Confidence and tailoring your approach when you're approaching brands, or like yourself, a travel editor, tailoring it and making it very specific to what they are looking for. I think I'm going to pose this question to both Maria and to Amy, and it's all around like going back to like content creators. And I know you guys, Amy, you work with a lot of destinations, Antigua being one of them. So what role do you think that content creators and influencers will play now in helping to rebuild that consumer confidence and trust in the marketplace?
Maria, do you want to go? Because I always talk.
I thought I lost connection again. So I think influencers definitely have a role to play. I think their followers are the followers that really look up to them and take their advice to heart. So it's up to those influencers provide engaging content. We saw an increase in social media activity during the pandemic, and we continue to see persons utilizing social media quite a bit. For ourselves as well as a brand, we relied heavily on social media because these content creators were able to share information that we needed shared time, particularly when we wanted to get accurate information about the destination as quickly as possible and with our changing protocols, etc. We were also able to utilize them when persons couldn't travel was closed, but they had content already created on the destination. So they were able to repurpose content that they had already and reshare it to their target audiences for us. And we found that to be quite useful. And I think that influencers, they really need to own their space. Social media is big right now. Online is big right now. And we have, honestly, as a tourism office, sort of given them a bit more attention. We did rely heavily on traditional media, but we see traditional media slightly declining, slightly falling back. So the influence of the social media is really picking up for us. And it's for them to take full advantage of this moment.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I mean, now that I have Amy and Sophie, I'm going slightly off topic here a little bit, because you just mentioned that like traditional media, you're kind of pushing a little bit more focus into the influencer social media content creator world and less on the traditional media. Do you see that changing, evolving? How do you see that process evolving? Is it a combination of both that we require? You know, Amy, from your perspective, you work with both, don't you?
Yeah,
we have from destinations. Yeah.
We have a huge amount of tourism boards, and so for some we manage both social media content. So for clients like Singapore or Capital Regions USA, or others we do purely PR. But within that comes influencers. So there is this blurred line, and I will stick to the fact that I think influencer marketing actually sits within PR, because ultimately it's about a story, and PRs, media and influencers covered a story from a different angle, but it's still about the actual story itself, as opposed to a central marketing image or kind of ethos. And in the pandemic, we're always going to be in the pandemic. In the very beginning of the pandemic, when we were all learning how to try and use another word other than pivot, that's when we saw actually our influencer relationships became really important, as Maria was saying, to kind of leverage them to do nostalgic pieces, to kind of keep the messages going. And that's where you saw some of the influencers, I felt like some of them lost their way a bit, because they were so used to producing content about gone on a trip, this is really nice, this is another nice place, this is another nice place. And actually they weren't showing that they had the depth of knowledge about travel to be able to say, actually, this is what you need to be thinking about, and start talking about some of the really boring stuff that none of us ever want to talk about, PCR tests or protocols. But some of them really showed how they could be funny, inspirational, sensible, and talk with actual authenticity about what it's like to travel, and to know about kind of what goes in your pocket, and so what goes in whose pocket, and who you should be supporting and caring about. And so that's when you saw some of them really come and do sensible things, like say, these are some community-led initiatives across the world that need some help, and these are reasons why, or this is how you can, go on a virtual tour. And we did one with Intrepid with Local Purse. You can do local tours that actually benefits local people, even if you can't travel. And that's when you just saw people actually start to sit back and think, as opposed to just saying, go to X destination. It's like, how do I really make a difference within the world without being totally glib and millennial? And so I think I've kind of gone all round the topic, but I think it all comes back to the fact that the story is where it starts, and the story that whatever destination, and each one's different, which is why I think it does sit in PR, and we will continue to do a bit of both. You can't really have one without the other. And also some brands just shouldn't be thinking about traditional media because that's not their target audience. So, and other brands, they just want to be in traditional media because some of their age demographics aren't on Instagram, for example.
Yeah, Jamie, I just wanted to piggyback on what Amy was saying and say, yes, traditional media is still majorly important for us based on our target audience, but we are also leaning a little bit more than normal on the influencers and the content creators via social media now. So it's a balance. It's definitely a balance. And we love when our content creators work across multiple platforms.
Sophie, do you want to add anything from like a
Yes, I was actually just going to touch on something Maria said, that is, going back to when none of us were able to travel at all. I've kind of started to use destination-based writers a lot more, and actually I found that it's worked really, really well for stories. You get a much more kind of true and honest sort of account and narrative than you might do by sending a journalist that doesn't really know the destination as accomplished as the journalist might be. I've had commission writers based in Sydney, and then about to commission somebody based in Korea, and you don't have all the kind of logistics of getting someone out there, but B, you're getting a really authentic story from the ground as well. So it's something that I'm going to look to continue after the pandemic as well as kind of, opening up the platform to my trusted pool of writers, but also writers all over the globe as well.
I think that's a really great idea, actually, and it leads to that kind of sustainability conscious travel idea, because you're really interacting with the local people and they're sharing their stories to you via your traditional media. So I'm really excited that you guys are doing that and looking for our content creators who might be in places around the world. How do they find opportunities like this? Do they need to follow you on Twitter or something?
Yeah, it's something I'm still kind of finding my feet with. Like, we use some of the kind of traditional platforms like Trav Media, but I've actually just started putting things out on Twitter as well, just to call outs for writers. I did one this week for Korea and immediately got 6 people replying. So it's working really well, but kind of open to to new channels as well. As I said, it's kind of quite new to me, but definitely proving successful at the moment.
Fantastic. So guys, look for her on Twitter and her tweets coming up soon. Amy, I'm going to come back to you really quickly. And I want to look at, what do you kind of consider to be I'd say a successful influencer-led campaign? Do you have really any examples or case studies that you could potentially share with us?
Yeah, and I also don't want to make it all about my own clients, because, you know, there are other people in the world. I thought Visit Britain did some great ones last year, and it's actually continuing this year, where they did city swaps with like a London-based influencer and a Bristol-based influencer, and so that kind of gave you the nice staycation story, but also the local led, but also new the kind of the newness of it as well. And they also knew what they were doing because they were giving each other tips. So I thought that was a really good one. We're just about to start working on one, and also you could see that how that was wholly only influencer led. It had no media element to it, and we're about to start working on one for We Look After Iceland, and we're doing one for Reykjavik. And the idea is that Reykjavik being not quite halfway, but almost between America and the US, that America and the UK gets flights, and we're doing a competition where we want someone who's a kind of sort of pandemic hero, someone who really deserves to meet a long lost loved one on another side of the world. So if you've got your nanny you haven't seen who lives in New York, then you win a competition. You've got to tell your story, because it's all about story, right? And pitch yourself, so that then there's going to be a winner who gets the flights and the whole break that goes to Reykjavik. And to get that out into the world, we're using influencers to kind of showcase some of the stories, tell people to enter, and it's because it's just not a traditional media route. You know, there aren't many titles out there that are going to say, yeah, we'll run your competition, but it does have a nice feel to it. So we're using influencers to promote that for us. So hopefully that should be a great success. We're launching it now, today.
That's fantastic. That's really good. So where can we find that? We can find that on the Finn Partners platform.
Yeah, it'll be on. I think you'll just follow the hashtag Reunite Reykjavik, hopefully.
Okay.
And it's good luck spelling Reykjavik.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? And there's another one we're working on with one of your clients, Intrepid Travel, as well, for our content creator retreat coming up in Morocco in spring 2022. And all you guys would have to do is basically send us a 30-second video telling us why you are an intrepid traveler.
And they're the kind of, Intrepid's done some great stuff with content creators. So like Carl Watson does one on the Twin Perspectives, where they're content creator led trips, and so their followers will then go on a trip with them. It's almost being with like your best mate celebrity, I suppose. And they work really well. They sell out. They're really popular. So once you get yourself to a certain level, that's where you want to be. You want to be able to kind of run your own tours, but with the authenticity of my beloved Intrepid.
Maria, talk to us a little bit about your content creator retreat. I know you guys have Antigua has a really famous content creator retreat that they do, well, every year pre-COVID. How has that been for the destination? What any kind of key successful outcomes that you've had from that, and how can a content creator or influencer get onto a retreat like that for a destination?
Okay, I'm going to let Amy respond to that after I give a bit of an intro, because I know it was led by our UK team. So we worked with a influencer marketing company called Traverse. And what it is that they were able to select influencers from within their grouping that fit our brand and what we wanted to achieve. But it was also a very cool way for them to come to the destination for this conference to really learn about different new techniques within social media, within marketing, and just really just kind of improving their maybe photography skills or what have you not. So it's been very good for us. We've held it twice, and it's allowed us to create quite a bit of content. We've gotten influencers from all of our major source markets, the USA, the United Kingdom, Canada, and the Caribbean. And they've been on the island, they've explored lots of different things and created content while on island, as well as later on at a particular time, and we wanted that content to go out. So it's been very good for us. We actually won an award for our What Cool Looks Like campaign based on the influencer marketing activities that took place during that period. So we were very pleased with working with those influencers, and plus they were the ones that were able to, during the pandemic, continue to share information related to Antigua and Barbuda. So it was a good group of influencers. They were selected based on their history. We love to build relationships with these influencers, and Traverse has a good relationship with these particular influencers, and they're known to deliver. So that's important for us. They also over deliver, even more important for us. So that was great. And we were just very happy with the results coming out of that social media campaign.
Do you want to add anything to that, Amy? I know you.
I was on the inaugural one. It was absolutely
marvelous.
Right.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I think there were also we learned things as we did it, because it was a huge group. It was 40 people the first year, and we had them from, as you're saying, all different markets. And we had great video, and we were at World Travel Market, and I was on a panel talking about how good it was, and there was a really valid question from the audience, which is saying, there doesn't seem to be much diversity in that video. And I thought, but there was. But actually, when you watch the video, you were like, but it's the editing of a video. And it made us really conscious of thinking, yeah, they were just nice shots, but we weren't thinking, how are we being reflective of who's coming? Is our group of influencers reflective enough of the people that come to Antigua? And have we thought about it properly? And I think that's something that was the first time I've really thought, yeah, it was a good check that someone asked me. And I think as time has gone on, particularly, after the events of last year, more brands, what has been most exciting for me has been that I spent a year on maternity leave and basically listened to way too many intersectional feminist podcasts and came back empowered. And then there was a pandemic and was like, okay, we'll just get through this bit. But the best thing that's happened from last year is that brands that I never thought, clients and tourist boards, I never thought would ask the question of saying, have we got some sort of checklist? Are we making sure that we've crossed the gamut of diversity here? And I was like, no, we're not. But this is the conversation we should be having. And it's been really exciting to see that some of our clients, we have to report on the backgrounds of people that we go on trips, not just influencers, but media. Are we looking at the media base? Like the whole thing has been, and also like the image gallery. It's, Iceland, which isn't a particularly diverse destination in terms of race, is saying that when we just did an event called Fishmas the other 2 nights ago, was saying that we don't want everyone to look the same, was their directive. And I was like, this is a brilliant, excellent brief, because they're a progressive, excellent nation. So you can see the conversation shifting. And I think that was one of the most eye-opening, that I remember that moment talking about the Antigua conference. And I was like, we are untouchable. This is the most perfect trip. And then I thought, but our video didn't show it the right way. And I just think it's about visibility, someone asking the right question. And it was still a great trip. We'll just re-edit the video to make sure that we show the truth.
Yeah, you made some brilliant points there, Jessica. And I'm going to, once again, sorry, but I'm going to shout out Intrepid Travel, because yesterday I saw they released their ethical marketing guidelines, which look at how they will incorporate people from a Black, Asian, minority ethnic background over the next few years, the short-term goals and long-term goals, how they will be incorporating more content creators, more influencers, more across the board in their marketing and advertising. So I was really pleased to see that from them, as a tour operator, because I think a lot of the times brands ask you, okay, well, yeah, we know we want to be more diverse and more inclusive, but how do we do it? I think that was a really good case study to show how to do it.
It's really true. Like I had a panel, an Abtar panel a couple of months ago, and I needed someone to talk about a specific thing, and I asked Mikey from Intrepid if he would be my third panelist, and he said, I've looked at the other ones and there are 2 white men. Are you sure you want me? Is there anyone else? And I was like, no, I really want you, my client. But good question. You're still coming. You can't help being a white man. But I just thought that was the first time I've actually heard someone say that. And it was genuine. He really was concerned. It's not his fault he's a white man, bless him.
I know, Sophie, you did a piece during the pandemic as well, which had a few, like, you know, diverse people in it around, like, looking at diversity in the travel industry. How was that piece received across from your, you know, from your readership, really? It'd be interesting to know.
So generally we had good feedback. It was a sort of almost like a reset moment, I think, for me as an editor. And we've got so much work to do still. One step is diversifying the writer base. You were talking about images and videos. We still find that really hard as a publication to find the right images. A lot of the stock image libraries are still very, very white. Still showing kind of one type of person. Our readers are actually really vocal about accessibility as well, so we need to make sure that we did a piece the other day about great walks in the UK, and someone got really cross because they said we can identify whether these walks were accessible or not. So there's still loads and loads of work to do, but our audience is really vocal about it when we get it right and wrong. So that is helping to kind of shape what we're doing and help guide us. And we're kind of slowly, kind of brick by brick, trying to build a more kind of inclusive platform for everybody. I'm not saying that every piece is going to appeal to every person, just in the same way as a holiday in Benidorm doesn't appeal to everyone, but it's kind of making sure you've got that range of voices, that range of narratives, that range of stories, the range of images that kind of make sure that everybody is feeling like something within the publication speaks to them.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really excited about all these conversations. For me, like this time last year, we weren't having these conversations. Brands weren't thinking about these things. So I'm really excited about that. And as I say all the time, small steps, big action, big impact, sorry. But as we get ready to wrap up, Maria, what advice can you offer to an individual who wants to work with a destination? What should they be doing? How should they approach you? Tell us.
I want to start off with what I know Sophie would have mentioned is do your research. It's so important to actually have an idea of who that brand is, what they target, or who their target audiences are as well. Know that for Antigua and Barbuda, our key pillars are wellness, romance, yachting and sailing, culture and heritage. So we would love to align with content creators that focus on those areas. We also speak about that issue of diversity. I know that's something that we are heavily, pushing as well now. We have a lot of large groups with Black travelers coming to Antigua and Barbuda. So we really want to kind of start honing in on that market, because we do see the impact it has on the destination. Brands working with content creators, I think it's also important that they come to us with an sort of an idea of what it is that they have to offer. We get a lot of emails from brands who are saying, can we speak to you about what we can do for you? What is your interest? What do you want to? I'm like, okay, if we're interested in you, we would have come to you directly. So if you're coming to us, please come to us with some an interesting proposition. Be creative, be engaging, and also look at your timings. For Antigua and Barbuda, we do have a high season and then a slower season. If you're approaching us about coming to Antigua and Barbuda, we want you to think about the time that you approach us, because we're going to be working with hotel partners and with excursion partners, etc., who will have gone through the pandemic, who are, when it's a busy season, they are looking to recoup costs, they want to gain revenue. So you have to really think about the time that you approach us at. And yeah, most importantly, be able to work across multiple platforms. It's really hard for us to sell to our partners that there's this influencer on Instagram. And that's all that you do. We need to see you on Instagram, on YouTube, with your online blog as well. Engagement is key for us. You can have let's say 100K followers, and then your engagement is low, that puts up a red flag for us. Or we're looking at the comments that are coming back from your followers, and we can see where they're from. They're not from our target audiences, they're not from our key source market. So for that, it's highly unlikely that we would select a content creator along those lines. Make sure that your audience is aligned with the brand, and it's our target audience. That's most important for us. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, we are definitely, we're keen to work with content creators, but it's most important that they are aligned with the brand and what we have to offer.
I like the point you made around not just being an influencer on Instagram, but having other platforms that you can sell to a particular brand. I think that's a really important point.
And sorry, Jamie Lee, and just because I remembered what I had to say, and the story. Your story needs to be creative, it needs to be engaging. And we know that we are a destination with 365 gorgeous, stunning sandy beaches, but we want the content creator to really come to the destination and pull out this interesting and unique stories within the destination, as opposed to just taking a beautiful, and I'm not going to say it's not going to be beautiful, but we just don't need to see tons of just beautiful pictures in swimsuits on the beach. We really want those influencers to sell destination, dig deep into what we have to offer.
It's about storytelling. Same question to you, Amy. What advice would you offer really to like a content creator? Any closing words that you have for them as, you know,
we have a thing that we say in our sustainability team, that we keep it honest and modest, and I think that's probably works across most things. But you know, as Maria was saying, we use a platform called Tagger, and where you can basically see literally everything anyone's ever done, as well as when they bought followers, or how authentic their audience is, or where they're from. And I you know, sometimes I'm just missing in action on Tagger, and that's how we find people. Some, you know, because you can't know everyone, we find people that way, as well as through networking. So it works both ways. But we I think being really upfront about what your purpose is of your platform, and also not being shy about the fact that you know, there are some brands that really want a massive, you know, influence that's got huge impactful numbers and don't care about the engagement because it works within something like a big wider PR campaign. But there are others that are really realizing that the work that goes into smaller influencers, or in the nano and micro space, actually pays off, as it gets kind of the true engagement and the real return, you know, brand building and booking. And I always think of it as like, you know, your really popular friend who knows how to get a good hotel deal, or tells you where she bought her trainers. That's kind of where I see the kind of nano micro influencer space, and it does really work. And you know, it's like as I would trust my local paper, like almost trust. I've got a couple of influencers around me who know where to buy things, and I buy things from there. So I think that just being really upfront is the key, and being really professional and ideally nice and normal, because we're all nice and normal people too. And feverishness usually gets you a bad rap from a PR and from a content creator and from a journalist and from everyone. So I like to work with really nice people.
We all do, don't we? So, that's always a plus. You said something that was really important, networking. That's something we didn't get to touch on today's panel, but that's really key in building your network with people like yourself and like Sophie and Maria, you know, getting out into those networking events. Traverse does lots of different content creative events and brings them together. Women in Travel, we also have our kind of content creator community. So yeah, networking, vital. Sophie, I'm going to finish with you. Are there any kind of resources that you could potentially recommend for aspiring travel writers?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one, because traditionally I've kind of fallen back on Travel Media, and I still do, British Guild of Travel Writers, but it's a very kind of traditional format. And I think, yeah, as I mentioned, I'm sort of increasingly putting calls out on Twitter. You touched on networking, that's really important. It's kind of building that community, and you kind of, you know, you can't think of who, you know, you want a specialist in a particular area, but having that network is like, oh, so-and-so knows so-and-so, they'll be great. So that network is really important. But I think, yeah, kind of knowing all the different kind of writing societies, joining Facebook groups, and also just, and from my own point of view as an editor, just get in contact with me, kind of put yourself on my radar so that, you know, we have that, start to build up that relationship. That really helps as well. Increasingly, I'm working with tourist boards for recommendations as well, kind of in destination writers, or, you know, writers that they've worked with, who've been really successful on previous campaigns, that kind of thing. So it's kind of building that community and that network, and recommendations tends to work really well for me.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you all so much for all your incredible advice and knowledge today. I know that our community will really, really benefit from today's discussion. And you can all find these ladies. They're all on LinkedIn. They're all on Twitter. Most of them, they have their own names, so you will be easily able to find them. But I will try to tag their names, their social media handles somewhere in the video for you guys as well. But thank you so much, ladies, and have a fantastic evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay.